Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. I'm your host, Sharon Vornholt, and I'm so happy you're tuning in today. Today, I want to talk about negotiation. How do you negotiate the best possible deal as a real estate investor? And I want to give you 7 negotiation tips that will help make this process a little bit easier. Now, if we were going to be honest, most of us would say that we don't really like negotiation. Some people like it better than others, and some people are better than others. But for most people, they're not confident when they first start out. That's for sure. Now, this is no doubt one of the most important skills you need as a real estate investor. And the good news is that you can learn to do it. So, why is it so uncomfortable to begin with? Well, I think most of us were brought up to be rule followers. Somehow negotiating, whether it's a real estate deal or for an automobile, it just feels a little bit uncomfortable. It's like we didn't follow the rules, we didn't pay the price. So you have to get out of that mindset. And as I said, whether this is an easy thing for you or not, know that anyone can learn to be a good negotiator. So there's no substitute for practice. That's what I'll say. Things are different today for me than they were all those years ago when I started, because I was a lot more scared to negotiate. I don't have that problem today, but it was a learning process that took a lot of time for me. For some people, it might be a shorter process. But an investor friend told me something a long time ago that I've never forgotten. We were talking about negotiation, and he said, if you're not embarrassed by your offer, you just offered too much. And what he meant by that was if your offer is accepted right away and you felt good about making that offer, then you probably paid too much for the house. You need to be making offers that make you at least a little bit uncomfortable, if not embarrassed. And that's something that I've never forgotten. You can't offer too much for a property and come out long-term on that property. So what exactly is negotiation? At its simplest form, negotiation is 2 or more people trying to reach some common agreement about something. When you're a real estate investor, this is always going to be about property. So understand that negotiation is not only about money. It might be about terms. Maybe you can pay more for a property and you can get great terms. Maybe owner financing. Maybe you can give this seller what they want if you get owner financing, maybe with no interest, or something else that they want. So negotiation is about creating a win-win for everybody that's in the transaction. Both parties should feel like they've won. Now, when you can accomplish that, stay within your values, your core values, and your ethics for you, yourself, and your company, then that's a win. But what do you do if you can't agree? Because sometimes you just can't agree. And I've learned over the years that it usually happens that when this situation comes about, that it's for the best. I wrote a blog post some time ago called Know When to Fold Them. If someone just will not budge off of their terms, it may be a red flag. You know, there may be a deeper meaning to it too. Maybe someone is getting transferred and they just have to sell the house for a certain amount of money in order to come out on the property, or in order for them to buy another property. So if someone meets your terms and they're not willing to do that, let's say they don't want to meet your terms, they don't want to take your price, you may have problems down the road because they may just try to back out of the closing. If someone is really unhappy and you can't seem to reach an agreement, sometimes it's just better to walk away than to try to force an agreement that isn't meant to be. So here are 7 tips that I have for the negotiation process and for making everyone feel like they've had a win-win in this situation. So number 1 is always do your homework. Whether you are buying or selling a property, know what the comps are in the area. So don't just guess, but know what properties are selling for and know the conditions of those properties. If you're buying a fixer-upper, the comps for that property will not be the same as one that was fully renovated. And sometimes this is a conversation that you just need to have with the seller. You need to compare apples to apples. You need to be able to look the seller in the eye and say, your property is not the same as this property, and then tell them the reasons. This one has been fully renovated or whatever it is. Number 2 is know your numbers. How much will repairs cost? You can't guess here. So you have to have a realistic ARV, after repaired value, but you have to be realistic about the amount of repairs that the property needs. This information is something that you need to know when you are negotiating a deal. If you're guessing up numbers, it's almost always going to end up badly. So know the property, know that what the property values are. So know what this property will be worth when you've done the repairs. And learning how to figure repairs on the fly, looking around a property and knowing how much it's going to take, that's a skill set that you develop over time. Worst case scenario, take the information down, go home, call the person back. Lots of people do that. Now, number 3 is know your desired income. So knowing what you must have from the negotiation is essential. What's important to you? Is it the money? Is it the terms? What do you need to make this a win-win for you? And what is non-negotiable for you? Let's say that you need private money, and your private money partner is only willing to give you X number of dollars, and you have X number of money to put in the deal. That's a line in the sand. If you're doing a terms deal, know what those terms would look like. Will you pay interest on a loan on seller financing? Will you not pay interest on a loan? Will you try to give them the price they want, but with no interest? So know your desired outcome before you ever start the negotiation process. Number 4 is, what is your exit strategy? You need to know this the day you buy the property. So your exit strategy will pretty much determine how much you can pay for the property. Here's an example. If you're going to rehab the property and sell it to a retail buyer, you're going to have to put a lot more money into the deal than if you were going to hold the property. If you were a landlord, you were going to put a tenant in there, and maybe the cabinets are okay for a rental, but they're not okay to sell to a retail buyer. Maybe some of the upgrades you would do for a flip would be different than what you would do as a rental. So you need to know what your exit strategy or strategies are the day you buy the property. Number 5, and this one is really important. You need to find out what does the seller really want? What is their motivation? And be prepared to really listen to the seller. So in addition to cash, is there something else they need? If they simply need relief from the property, like yesterday, they may be willing to do a terms deal. Are closing costs an issue for them? Would you be willing to pay closing costs to get this deal done? Maybe they need the house cleaned out. Maybe it was mom's house. Maybe it's a probate, and that's something you could do. So all of those things are negotiable, and all of those things factor into the sales price of the property, what you can pay for the property. If you're doing some of these things, then you won't be able to give them the same amount of money that you would give them if they were taking care of their own closing costs, for instance. Number 6 is, don't beat up the person in the negotiations. Don't do that. There's a give and take in any negotiation. And I've seen investors go in and just be brutal with the person. As I said a couple times before, at the end of the day, each party needs to feel like they got a win. They may not have gotten exactly what they want, but they can live with the situation. They're okay with it. Maybe they got some concessions on your side, some things you're going to do, but they didn't get quite the money that they had hoped to get. Maybe you offered a little bit more, but they're going to do something in return. So when you leave a negotiation, you should feel good about it. Everyone should feel good about it. Okay. So that's the thing to remember. And then realize that there will be times that you just need to walk away. In fact, sometimes that's the only solution. You're just not their person for this deal. There's no other way to put it. You're just not the right person for them at this time. Last thing I wanted to point out is remember that most good deals are created, they're not found. The money is in the follow up, and sometimes it takes a while to get to the end game in the follow up. Those sellers that are saying no to you today may be saying, not now. I'll do this, but maybe at a later time. So know that about 80% of your deals will likely come from continued follow up. So when someone tells you no, remember that it just means not now. So I hope that this helps you when you get to your next negotiation. I think if you've got some guidelines, some rules to follow, it does make it easier. So let me know your thoughts about negotiation. Do you find it easy? Do you find it hard? Do you dread to talk to people because of the negotiation process? Let me know. And I will be back same time next week. I'll see you then. And please leave us a rating and a review. I'll see you same time, same place next week. Bye for now.